Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the command center in Geneva. Officers ran to their stations. Something big was happening. "Admiral, we have an incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Sarah Bell. Her voice was shaking. "It's not from any human ship." Jake put down his coffee cup. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen his communications officer look so scared. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered. Then a face appeared that made everyone in the room step back. The creature had gray skin like old leather. Its eyes were bright yellow and very large. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am Ambassador Kethfor of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. I speak for Emperor Zervanus, ruler of 12,000 star systems. We address the primitive species known as humans." Jake felt his blood turn cold. First contact with aliens. This was the moment Earth had been preparing for since they started traveling to other worlds. But this was not how anyone had imagined it would happen. "Your species has spread like a disease across sacred worlds," the alien continued. "You have built colonies on planets that belong to the Empire. You have disturbed the natural order of the galaxy. This cannot continue." The alien's yellow eyes seemed to stare right through the screen. "The Emperor has decided to show mercy. You have 72 standard hours to surrender completely. Remove all humans from the disputed worlds. Accept your place as servants of the Empire. Do this, and your species will be allowed to live." Jake's hands gripped the arms of his chair. Around him, officers whispered to each other in shock and fear. "If you refuse," Kethver said, "we will destroy every human world. We will burn your cities. We will turn Earth into ash and dust. Your species will become extinct. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The screen went black. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. "Get me President Carter," Jake ordered. "Right now." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. President Lisa Carter sat at the head of a long table. Around her were the most important people on Earth. Military leaders, scientists, and politicians filled every seat. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Carter said, "we all saw the transmission. We have less than 3 days to make the most important decision in human history." General Mike Rogers, head of Earth's Space Forces, spoke first. "Ma'am, we don't know how many ships they have. We don't know their weapons. We don't know anything about their technology. This could be a bluff. Or it could be real," said Dr. Amy Richardson, Earth's top scientist. "Our deep space sensors have detected massive energy signatures moving toward our outer colonies. Something very big is coming." Jake stood up. "With respect, we're looking at this wrong. The question isn't whether they can destroy us. The question is whether we're going to let them." Secretary of Defense Paul Grant shook his head. "Admiral, be realistic. If they control 12,000 star systems, they must have billions of ships. We have maybe 300 combat vessels total. So what?" Jake replied, "Our ancestors faced impossible odds before. They still fought. They still won sometimes." President Carter held up her hand for silence. "Admiral Morrison, what would resistance look like? Give me facts, not emotions." Jake activated the holographic display above the table. A 3-dimensional map of human space appeared. 47 star systems glowed blue. "We have 2 advantages," he said. "First, we know our territory better than they do. Second, humans are good at adapting. We can change our tactics quickly. Most galactic empires probably can't." "That's not much," said Secretary Grant. "It's what we have," Jake replied. "Look, I've studied every military campaign in human history. David beat Goliath. Small forces have defeated big ones before, but only when they refuse to give up. Dr. Richardson leaned forward. There's something else. We've been working on new weapons. Experimental technology. If we had time to finish the research, ... How much time? President Carter asked. Months, maybe a year. We don't have months, Jake said. We have 3 days. An aide entered the room and whispered something to President Carter. Her face went pale. What is it? Jake asked. Our colony on New Texas just went dark. No communications, no signals. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens weren't waiting 3 days. They were already attacking. Captain Ryan Blake burst into the room. He was young for a starship commander, but his ship was Earth's newest and most advanced. Ma'am, the USS Defiance is ready for launch. My crew is standing by. President Carter looked around the table. Recommendations? Surrender, said Secretary Grant. Save as many lives as possible. Fight, said Jake. Die free rather than live as slaves. President Carter closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was clear. Secretary Grant, begin evacuation of civilian populations to the inner colonies. Dr. Richardson, you have whatever resources you need for your research. Admiral Morrison, prepare our forces for war. She stood up. Everyone else stood with her. Send a message to this Ambassador Kethver, she said. Tell him we received his ultimatum. Tell him we have an answer for his emperor. What message, ma'am? Asked the communications officer. President Carter smiled. It was not a happy smile. Tell them we didn't crawl out of caves and reach for the stars just to kneel before the first bully we meet. Tell them humanity has an answer to their demand. And what answer is that? We're sending warships. The room erupted. Some people cheered. Others looked terrified. But everyone understood that Earth had just declared war on a galactic empire. Jake Morrison felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear, yes, but also excitement. Humanity was about to face its greatest test. Win or lose, they would face it standing up. The countdown to war had begun. The moment President Carter declared war, every human military base in the galaxy came alive. Sirens wailed. Lights flashed. Soldiers ran to their posts. The largest military operation in human history had begun. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in Fora, the war room, watching dozens of screens showing activity across human space. Ships were launching from every planet. Weapons factories were working around the clock. Everyone knew they were preparing to fight an impossible war. Status report, Jake called out. Lieutenant Sarah Bell read from her tablet. We have 237 combat ships ready for action. Another 50 ships are being pulled out of maintenance. Earth's orbital shipyards are working to finish 12 new vessels. Not enough, Jake muttered. What about the colonies? Mixed responses, sir. Some are evacuating civilians. Others are refusing to leave. New Austin says they're going to fight. Jake nodded. He expected that. Humans were stubborn. It was one of their best and worst qualities. Captain Ryan Blake entered the room. His uniform was dirty, and he looked tired. Admiral, the USS Defiance is ready. My crew has been training for 36 hours straight. Good. How many other ships are ready? For the reconnaissance mission? 12, sir. All volunteers. Jake looked at the young captain. Ryan was only 32 years old, but he was the best ship commander in the fleet. More importantly, he was creative. In the coming war, creativity might matter more than firepower. Captain, your mission is simple. Find their fleet. Learn everything you can about their ships and weapons. Then get back here alive. Yes, sir. There's just one thing. Ryan hesitated. My crew knows this is probably a one-way trip. They're all staying. Anyway, Jake felt proud and sad at the same time. That's what makes us human, Captain. We don't run from fights we can't win. Across the room, Dr. Amy Richardson was working at a computer terminal. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Her gray hair was messy, and her eyes were red from staring at screens. But she was making progress. "Doctor," Jake called to her, "how are the new weapons coming?" Amy looked up from her computer. "I have good news and bad news. The bad news is we can't build enough quantum disruptors to arm all our ships. The good news is we figured out how to make them work." "How many can you build?" "Maybe 20, 30 if we're lucky." Jake sighed. 20 weapons against thousands of alien ships. But it was better than nothing. "There's more," Amy continued. "We've been studying the alien transmission. Their ships seem to use energy shields. Our quantum disruptors should be able to break through them." "Should?" "We've never tested them against actual alien technology." "We're guessing." Jake smiled grimly. "Doctor, this whole war is a guess. We're guessing we can win. We're guessing we can survive. One more guess won't hurt." Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Austin, Peter Harris was having the worst day of his life. As the civilian administrator, he was supposed to organize evacuations. Instead, he was organizing resistance. "I don't care what Earth Command says," shouted Mayor Tom Wilson. "This is our home. We're not running." Peter looked around the crowded town hall. Farmers, miners, teachers, shopkeepers, all of them ready to fight aliens with military technology beyond their understanding. It was crazy. It was also very human. "Folks," Peter said, "I understand how you feel, but we're talking about an alien empire. They probably have weapons we can't even imagine." "So what?" called out Susan Wright, the school teacher. "My great-grandfather fought in World War III with nothing but an old rifle. Sometimes you have to fight even when you can't win." The crowd cheered. Peter realized he wasn't going to change their minds. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe they were right. "Okay," he said, "if we're going to fight, let's fight smart. We'll hide the children in the underground shelters. We'll set up defensive positions around the town. And we'll make these aliens pay for every inch of ground." Back in space, Captain Ryan Blake was leading his small fleet toward the edge of human territory. His ship, the USS Defiance, was humanity's most advanced vessel. It had experimental engines, new weapons, and the best crew in the fleet. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, his tactical officer, "I'm picking up massive energy signatures ahead. Whatever's out there, it's big." Chief Engineer Maria Santos spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting at least 50 ships, maybe more. They're huge. Each one is bigger than our largest battleship." Ryan felt his stomach drop. 50 ships was bad enough. But if each ship was bigger than humanity's best vessels, the odds were even worse than they thought. "Take us closer," he ordered, "but stay hidden. We need to see what we're dealing with." The USS Defiance moved carefully through the asteroid field at the edge of the system. Ryan watched the main screen as alien ships came into view. They were enormous. Each one looked like a floating city. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange lights pulsed along their sides. "My God," whispered Alex, "how many people are on those ships?" "Thousands," Maria replied. "Maybe tens of thousands each." Ryan studied the alien formation. The ships were arranged in perfect lines, like soldiers on parade. Everything was organized and orderly. No creativity. No surprise movements. Just overwhelming force arranged in traditional patterns. "Alex, are you seeing this?" "Yes, sir. They're fighting like it's still the 20th century. Big ships, straight lines, predictable formations. They're not used to fighting equals." Ryan realized They're used to fighting primitives who surrender immediately. He activated the ship's recording systems. Document everything. Ship designs, weapon placements, formation patterns. If we're going to fight them, we need to understand them. For 6 hours, the USS Defiance watched the alien fleet. Ryan's crew mapped every ship, counted every weapon, and recorded every tactical movement. The aliens never changed their formation. They never sent out scouts. They just moved forward in their perfect lines, confident that nothing could challenge them. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "I think I know how we can hurt them." "How?" "There." Not expecting a real fight. Look at their formation. It's designed to look impressive, not to fight a war. Their biggest ships are in front, protecting nothing. Their smaller ships are spread out too far to support each other. Ryan nodded. They're bullies. They're used to winning through intimidation. Exactly. And bullies don't know how to handle someone who fights back. Ryan made his decision. All ships, begin recording everything. We're going home with intelligence that might save humanity. As the USS Defiance prepared to leave, Ryan took one last look at the alien fleet. 50 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a human city. But they were also predictable, overconfident, and unprepared for real resistance. "This is going to be the hardest fight in human history," he told his crew. "But we can win. We just have to be smarter, faster, and more determined than they are." The small human fleet turned toward home, carrying information that would change everything. Behind them, the alien armada continued its slow, confident advance toward Earth. The war was about to begin. 3 days had passed since the alien ultimatum expired. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching enemy ships approach Saturn's moons. The first battle between humans and the Zephyrian Empire was about to begin. "Enemy fleet is entering weapons range," reported Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner. 50 ships, just like our reconnaissance showed. They're maintaining formation. Ryan studied the tactical display. The aliens were moving in perfect straight lines toward Titan, Saturn's largest moon. They expected to sweep aside any human resistance and continue toward Earth. They were wrong. "Chief Santos, are the modifications ready?" Ryan asked. Maria Santos grinned from her engineering station. "All systems are online, Captain. The aliens are about to get a big surprise." Ryan had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. His small fleet of 20 ships was hidden in Titan's thick atmosphere. The aliens couldn't see them coming. More importantly, the aliens didn't know what humans were capable of when they fought for their lives. "All ships, this is Captain Blake," he announced over the communication system. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who refuses to kneel." Sub-Commander Velther of the Zephyrian fleet was bored. In 300 years of service, he had never faced real resistance. Primitive species always surrendered when they saw the might of the Empire. These humans would be no different. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting some energy signatures near the large moon. Probably mining equipment or communication." "Satellites." Velther barely looked up from his reports. "Destroy them. Clear the area for our advance." The Zephyrian ships opened fire. Powerful energy beams lanced out toward Titan. They hit what looked like mining platforms and communication arrays. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. "Targets eliminated," the tactical officer reported. "No signs of military resistance." That's when everything went wrong. The explosions near Titan weren't from destroyed human equipment. They were from mines. Hundreds of nuclear mines that had been placed in the asteroids around Saturn. The blasts sent chunks of rock and metal flying at incredible speeds toward the alien fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Velther shouted, but it was too late. The debris cloud hit his perfect formation like a giant shotgun blast. Smaller alien ships were torn apart. Larger ones had their hulls punctured and their shields overloaded. Before the aliens could recover, the USS Defiance and her sister ships burst out of Titan's atmosphere. Ryan had positioned his fleet perfectly. The human ships came from above, below, and both sides, surrounding the confused alien formation. Fire everything. Ryan ordered 20 human ships opened fire at once. Their weapons were smaller than the aliens' guns, but they were faster and more accurate. More importantly, they were targeting the right spots. Ryan's crew had studied the alien ships for days. They knew exactly where to hit. The lead alien ship, Velthur's flagship, took a direct hit from the USS Defiance's main cannon. The blast punched through its shields and tore a hole in its hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a bright stream. "Impossible," Velthur screamed. "How are they penetrating our shields?" The answer was Dr. Amy Richardson's quantum disruptors. 20 human ships had been equipped with the experimental weapons. The disruptors didn't just break through alien shields. They made them collapse completely. But the aliens had advantages too. Their ships were bigger, stronger, and had more powerful weapons. When they finally organized a counterattack, human ships started dying. The USS Courage took a direct hit from an alien energy beam. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness. 12 human crew members died in an instant. "Captain," Alex Turner shouted over the noise of battle, "we're losing ships fast. The aliens are adapting to our tactics." Ryan watched 3 more human ships get destroyed. His surprise attack had worked, but now the aliens were fighting back with overwhelming firepower. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned. "All ships execute Plan Delta." Ryan ordered. Plan Delta was insane. It was also very human. Instead of trying to fight the aliens in traditional space combat, the human ships started ramming attacks. Small, fast human vessels accelerated to full speed and crashed into the giant alien ships. The impacts were devastating for both sides, but humans were willing to sacrifice themselves to win. The USS Defender, commanded by Captain Lisa Park, drove her ship straight into the side of an alien battleship. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Earth. Both ships were destroyed, but the alien vessel took 200 crew members with it. "They're insane," Velthur shouted as he watched another human ship prepare for a suicide run. "What kind of species destroys itself to win a battle?" His tactical officer had no answer. In 300 years of Zephyrian expansion, they had never encountered a species that preferred death to surrender. Ryan watched his fleet die around him. 15 human ships were gone. Only 5 remained, including the USS Defiance. But they had destroyed or badly damaged 20 alien ships. The remaining 30 alien vessels were retreating, trying to regroup. "Captain," Maria Santos reported, "we're down to emergency power. Weapons are offline. Life support is failing." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Ryan looked at the tactical display. The aliens were pulling back, but they weren't running. They were regrouping for another attack. When they came back, they would be ready for human tactics. "Alex, can you get a message to Earth?" "Yes, sir. Emergency transmission is ready." Ryan activated the communication system. "This is Captain Blake to Earth Command. First battle is complete. We hurt them badly, but we can't stop the main fleet. They're tougher than we thought, but they're not invincible. Use ramming attacks. Target their shield generators. And remember, they've never fought anyone who refuses to surrender." The transmission cut off as alien weapons found the USS Defiance. The ship's hull cracked and atmosphere began venting into space, but they had done their job. The first battle was over. Sub-Commander Velthur looked at the wreckage around him. 20 of his ships were destroyed or heavily damaged. The humans had been wiped out, but they had fought like demons. They had used tactics no civilized species would consider. "Send a message to Fleet Commander Zarthul," he ordered. "Tell him we won the first battle, but these humans are not like other species. They don't surrender. They don't retreat. They fight until they die. What should we tell him about our losses?" Velther looked at the debris field that had once been proud Zephyrian warships. "Tell him we need reinforcements." Many reinforcements. The Battle of Titan was over. The aliens had won, but they had learned something that would haunt them for the rest of the war. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought to make their enemies pay such a terrible price that victory became meaningless as the surviving alien ships limped toward Earth. Fleet Commander Zarthul received the report. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Fleet Commander Zarthul stared at the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. After the battle at Titan, he had expected to find a broken, defenseless planet. Instead, he found a fortress. "This is impossible," he muttered. How did they build so many defenses in just 2 weeks? The answer was simple. Humans worked like no other species in the galaxy. When their survival was threatened, they became capable of incredible things. Every man, woman, and child on Earth had worked without rest to turn their home system into a weapon. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center deep under Earth's surface. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored the defenses they had built. The moon was covered with massive railguns. Mars had been turned into a giant minefield. Even the asteroid belt was now a weapon. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell, "alien fleet is approaching the outer defenses. 2,000 ships." "Just like our scouts reported," Jake nodded. 2,000 ships against Earth's 300 remaining vessels. The numbers were terrible, but humans had advantages the aliens didn't expect. "Activate the Mars defense grid," he ordered. On Mars, the defense grid came online. But this wasn't what the aliens expected. Instead of traditional weapons, the entire planet had been rigged with nuclear explosives. When the alien fleet moved past Mars, the humans triggered every bomb at once. The explosion was visible from Earth. Mars didn't just blow up. It became a giant shotgun that fired chunks of rock and metal at incredible speeds. The debris cloud caught the alien fleet completely by surprise. "Report," Zarthul shouted as his flagship shook from impacts. "We've lost over 300 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans destroyed an entire planet just to attack us." Zarthul couldn't believe it. "They destroyed their own world?" "Yes, sir. Mars was one of their colony planets. They sacrificed it to damage our fleet." For the first time in his career, Zarthul felt fear. What kind of species destroyed their own planets to win a war? The humans were more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever faced, but the aliens still had overwhelming numbers. 1,700 ships remained, and they were closing on Earth. The planet's defenses were impressive, but they couldn't stop such a massive fleet. "All ships, prepare for final assault," Zarthul ordered. "We end this now." That's when President Lisa Carter made her announcement to the world. "Citizens of Earth, the enemy is at our gates. Today we fight not just for our planet, but for the idea that free people should never bow to tyrants. Every human who can hold a weapon will fight. Every city will be defended. Every mile of ground will cost them dearly." The alien fleet approached Earth's moon. The lunar defense platforms opened fire with everything they had. Massive railguns shot metal slugs at hypersonic speeds. Energy cannons fired continuous beams of destruction. Nuclear missiles streaked across space in their thousands. But the aliens fought back with equal fury. Energy beams from 2,000 warships lit up the darkness. The moon's surface began to glow from the heat of constant bombardment. One by one, the human defense platforms went silent dot in the underground bunkers. Families hugged each other and prepared for the end. But above them, something incredible was happening. Captain Ryan Blake was alive. His ship, the USS Defiance, had been badly damaged at Titan, but Chief Engineer Maria Santos had worked miracles to keep it running. Now Blake led a desperate assault on the alien command ship. "This is insane," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner as their small group of ships charged toward the massive alien flagship. "That ship is 50 times our size." "So was Goliath," Blake replied. "Sometimes the little guy wins." The USS Defiance and 12 other human ships accelerated toward Zarthel's flagship. They were heavily outnumbered, but they had one advantage. The aliens didn't expect a direct assault on their command ship. Marine Colonel Sam Peterson led the boarding party. With him was Lieutenant Kate Morgan, a scientist who had studied alien psychology. They knew this was probably a suicide mission, but they also knew it might be humanity's last chance. Remember, Kate told the Marines as they prepared to board the alien ship, "These creatures have never lost a war. They don't know how to handle defeat. If we can capture their commander, the whole fleet might surrender." The boarding shuttles launched from the USS Defiance. Somehow, they made it through the alien defenses and crashed into the side of the massive flagship. Colonel Peterson and his Marines fought their way through corridors filled with confused alien soldiers. The Zephyrians were skilled warriors, but they had never faced humans in close combat. The Marines fought with a fury that the aliens couldn't understand. They didn't retreat when wounded. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They fought until they died. "Where is your commander?" Peterson shouted at a captured alien soldier. The alien pointed down a corridor with a shaking hand. "The fleet commander is in the central bridge, but you cannot reach him. There are too many guards." Peterson smiled grimly. "Watch us." The Marines fought their way through the ship. Behind them, they left a trail of destruction. Alien soldiers fell back in terror. These humans were like nothing they had ever seen. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the real battle was just beginning. Alien shuttles were landing in every major city. Zephyrian soldiers expected to find cowering civilians. Instead, they found armed resistance. Peter Harris, the administrator from New Austin, was now leading guerrilla fighters in the ruins of New York. "Remember," he told his volunteers, "we don't have to win every battle. We just have to make them pay for every building, every street, every room." The urban warfare was brutal. Aliens had better weapons and armor, but humans knew the territory. They used sewers, subway tunnels, and building basements to launch surprise attacks. Every block became a battlefield dot in the alien flagship. Colonel Peterson and his remaining Marines finally reached the central bridge. Zarthul stood surrounded by his officers, watching the battle for Earth on multiple screens. "Fleet Commander," Peterson said, pointing his weapon at the alien leader. "You're coming with us." Zarthul laughed. "You cannot win, human. Even if you kill me, you have lost. Your planet is burning. Your people are dying. Your resistance is meaningless." Lieutenant Kate Morgan stepped forward. "That's where you're wrong. You've ruled the galaxy for so long that you forgot something important. Freedom isn't about winning or losing. It's about choosing how you live and how you die." "What do you mean?" "We mean that even if you destroy Earth, you haven't won. Every species in the galaxy is watching this battle. They're seeing that the mighty Zephyrian Empire can be hurt. They're learning that resistance is possible." Zarthul looked at the screens showing the battle. Human cities were burning, but humans were still fighting. They had lost thousands of ships, but they were still shooting. They were facing certain death, but they wouldn't surrender. "You're all insane," he whispered. "Maybe," Kate replied, "but we're free." At that moment, Dr. Amy Richardson's quantum disruptors finally proved their worth. The experimental weapons had been installed on Earth's remaining ships. When they fired all at once, they created a feedback loop that overloaded the alien fleets. Shield generators. Suddenly, the massive alien ships were vulnerable. Earth's remaining defenses opened fire with everything they had. Without their shields, even the largest alien vessels began to take damage. Sir Zarthel's tactical officer reported, "We're losing ships across the entire fleet. The humans have found a way to penetrate our shields." Zarthel looked at the humans who had captured him. Then he looked at the screens showing his fleet in trouble. For the first time in his life, he was seeing the impossible. His empire was losing a war. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "Begin withdrawal." "Sir," his officer asked in shock, "you heard me. We're leaving." The alien fleet began to pull back from Earth. They had won the battle, but they had lost something more important. They had lost the belief that they were invincible. As the alien ships retreated, the humans who remained alive looked up at the sky. Their cities were in ruins. Millions had died, but they were still free. Admiral Morrison spoke to what remained. "Of humanity. We're hurt, but we're not beaten. Today we proved that freedom is worth any price. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. And someday we'll make sure this never happens again." The siege of Earth was over. The war was just beginning. 1 month after the siege of Earth, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's victory had spread to every corner of Zephyrian space. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire was facing rebellion. Emperor Zervanus sat on his throne in the capital city of Zephyria Prime. The ancient ruler had never experienced defeat. His empire spanned 12,000 star systems. His fleets had conquered 200 different species. But now, for the first time, his subjects were questioning his power. "Your Majesty," reported his aide, "3 more systems have declared independence. The Kepler colonies, the Vega mining worlds, and the Centauri trade stations. They're all refusing to pay tribute." The Emperor's clawed hands gripped the arms of his throne. "How many ships do we have left?" "After the losses at Earth, we have approximately 15,000 combat vessels. But many are needed to guard our own worlds. Some planets are in open revolt." Zervanus had ruled for over 3,000 years. He had never seen his empire so weak. And it was all because of one small blue planet and its stubborn inhabitants. On Earth, the reconstruction was remarkable. Humans had a talent for rebuilding that amazed even themselves. The cities that had been destroyed were already being rebuilt. New shipyards were under construction. Most importantly, Earth was building the largest military force in human history. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the new command center in Geneva. Through the windows, he could see the construction of massive space elevators that would help launch the new fleet. Earth would never be caught defenseless again. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell, "we're receiving communications from 17 different star systems, all former Zephyrian colonies. They're asking for our help." Jake smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. What kind of help? Military advisors, weapons technology. Some are asking for direct military support against Zephyrian forces. And what does President Carter want to do? She wants to help them all. Jake looked at the star charts showing the galaxy. Red dots showed Zephyrian-controlled systems. Blue dots showed human space. But now there were green dots, systems that had declared independence from the Empire. "Sarah, send a message to all the rebel systems. Tell them Earth stands with anyone who chooses freedom over slavery." Tell them we'll share our technology and our tactics. Tell them the age of the Zephyrian Empire is ending. On the distant world of Kepler 442b, Resistance leader Thinder received Earth's message. His people had been slaves of the Empire for 2,000 years. They had forgotten what freedom looked like. But the humans had reminded them. "My friends," he announced to his followers, "the humans have shown us that the Empire can be beaten. They've offered to help us fight. Today, we stop being slaves. Today, we become free." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were remembering their independence. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed eternal, was crumbling. Fleet Commander Zarthul was a prisoner on Earth. Humans had treated him well, but he couldn't understand them. In his cell, he watched news reports of the galactic rebellions. Everything he had believed about the Empire was falling apart. Captain Ryan Blake visited him regularly. The human officer wanted to understand how the Zephyrian military worked. But Zarthul found himself more interested in understanding the humans. "Why do you fight?" he asked Blake during one visit. "Your species could have lived peacefully as part of the Empire. You would have been safe." Blake sat down across from the alien commander. "Safety isn't the most important thing. Freedom is. We'd rather die free and live as slaves." "But freedom is chaos," Zarthul replied. "The Empire brings order, peace, stability. The Empire brings fear," Blake said. "You ruled through intimidation. You never had to face anyone who refused to be intimidated." Zarthul was quiet for a long moment. "What will happen now?" "Now we help others find their freedom. The galaxy is changing, Commander. The age of empires is ending." Dr. Amy Richardson had been working around the clock since the siege ended. Her quantum disruptor technology was being shared with every rebel system. But she was also working on something bigger, a way to end the war permanently. "Admiral Morrison," she called from her laboratory, "I think I've found something important." Jake hurried to her lab. "What is it, Doctor?" "The Zephyrian Empire is built on fear. They maintain control by making everyone believe they're invincible. But we've proven they can be beaten. If we can defeat them in one more major battle, the rest of the galaxy will see that the Empire is finished. What do you have in mind?" Amy activated a holographic display. "Intelligence reports say the Emperor is gathering his remaining fleets for one final attack on Earth. Over 10,000 ships. If we can defeat that force, the Empire will collapse completely." Jake studied the display. 10,000 ships against. What we have left, that's impossible odds. Maybe, but we have something they don't have. What's that? Allies. Every rebel system in the galaxy is sending ships to help defend Earth. We're not fighting alone anymore. The final battle began 3 weeks later. Emperor Zurvanus himself led the massive Zephyrian fleet toward Earth. He was determined to crush the humans once and for all. The rebellion had to be stopped before it destroyed his empire. But when the Imperial fleet arrived at Earth, they found something unexpected. The humans weren't alone. Ships from dozens of rebel systems had joined them. Species that had been enemies for centuries were fighting side by side against their common oppressor. "Impossible," Zurvanus whispered as he watched the allied fleet form up around Earth. "They're supposed to hate each other." His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Your Majesty, we're detecting ships from the Kepler colonies, the Vega mining worlds, the Centauri trade stations, and at least 20 other rebel systems. They're all working together." President Lisa Carter broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "People of all worlds, today we fight not just for Earth, but for the idea that all beings deserve to be free. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long. Today, we show them that freedom is stronger than fear." The battle was the largest in galactic history. 10,000 Zephyrian ships against 3,000 rebel vessels. The odds were still against the rebels, but they had something the Empire lacked. They were fighting for something they believed in. The quantum disruptors worked perfectly. Ship after ship in the Imperial fleet lost their shields and became vulnerable. The rebels used every tactic the humans had learned: surprise attacks, ramming maneuvers, and coordinated strikes on key targets. But the real victory came when Emperor Zervanus himself was captured. Colonel Sam Peterson led another boarding party that fought their way to the Imperial flagship. When the ancient ruler was taken prisoner, the Zephyrian fleet lost the will to fight. "This is impossible," Zervanus said as he was led away in chains. "The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. It cannot end like this." Admiral Morrison looked at the defeated Emperor. "Your empire ended the day you underestimated the value of freedom. You thought power came from fear, but real power comes from people choosing to fight for what they believe in." Within hours of the Emperor's capture, Zephyrian forces across the galaxy began surrendering. The empire that had seemed eternal collapsed in a matter of days. 12,000 star systems were suddenly free. The war was over. Humanity had not only survived, but had sparked a revolution that freed the entire galaxy. 1 year later, Admiral Morrison stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered to create a new government based on freedom and cooperation instead of fear and conquest. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," he said, "we gather here not as conquerors, but as partners. The galaxy belongs to all of us. We must work together to make sure that no empire ever again enslaves entire worlds." The council erupted in cheers. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now working together. The Zephyrian Empire was finished, but something better was taking its place. Captain Ryan Blake, now promoted to Admiral, was given command of the new Galactic Defense Force. His job was to make sure that freedom, once won, would never be lost. "Again, the galaxy is free," he told his crew as they prepared for their first patrol mission. "Our job is to keep it that way." President Carter's final words to the human people became famous throughout the galaxy. "We didn't ask to be part of their empire. We didn't ask for this war. But we showed the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for. Whatever comes next, we'll face it as free people. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun. And it all started because when the Galactic Empire ordered Earth's capitulation, humanity sent warships instead